So former Waterford captain and Ballygunner clubman Fergal Hartley is on the line now to talk about the club and county calendar for 2020 and beyond. And Fergal, I suppose the dates have been mapped out at this stage by the GAA. The Waterford Hurling Championship will run over 6 weekends from July 24th to August 30th. The football starts on September 5th and ends on October 4th. We've inter-county training resuming from September 14th. And we've the hurlers out on the last weekend of October in Munster Championship action, as well as the footballers. Has the GAA struck the right balance, do you think, between club and county for the rest of 2020?
Yeah, I think overall, Tomas, for 2020, I think they've got it as probably right as they could get it. I mean, you have to consider it is an exceptional year, and, you know, options were limited. And certainly, and just looking at it through the lens of a Waterford GA person, I think, you know, by and large, we've got it right. I mean, if you look at what the alternatives were, you know, there weren't many alternative options that you would say were particularly appealing. So I think we've got it more or less right. And 6 weeks for the hurling championship, for example, you know, is not unreasonable under the circumstances. And it is condensed. To some extent, it might create a bit of a buzz and a bit of excitement about it, because I think for sure with the old format where you have a game or two games, say in April, and then nothing, you know, until potentially into August kind of thing, like, certainly it loses any bit of momentum it might have ordinarily had. So I think by and large for this year, they've got it as right as they can get. The one bit I suppose you'd be disappointed with would be the no club championship. In my head, the club championship is arguably the second biggest championship in GAA, and that would be a huge loss, I think. You know, were there alternatives? Possibly. Could you have gone to January and run it from January to March next year? You possibly could. I can understand it would conflict with the inter-county scene, but there might have been alternatives maybe by running it into early next year. But I do understand and appreciate as well that is a difficult call, because most club championships would be finished early, and then you could have a 3 or 4 month break before you move into what would be a Munster and a Leinster club championship, and then on to an All-Ireland series.
Well, would you be disappointed, Fergal, that those provincial and All-Ireland club championships have fallen by the wayside for this year?
Hugely. I think that is you know, in fairness, in difficult circumstances, by and large, I believe Croke Park and Waterford GA have got it as right as they can get it, but that would be the exception, I suppose. You know, I think it's hugely disappointing that's I mean, it's a huge honour for any club to represent the county at senior, intermediate or junior, and I mean, you know, I know our lads would say that, you know, in 2018 when we won Munster was probably one of their greatest ever victories, you know, and one of the days that last in their memories forever. And I think you talk to anyone, the De La Salle lads who won it back, you know, in 2010 and 2008 and so on, they'd say the exact same thing, like, you know. So I think it's a huge loss, but unfortunately it may be the victim of circumstance.
Do you think the way the season is structured now, Fergal, with clubs, I suppose, getting a look in during the summer months, that it could be the way forward for 2021?
Well, I think something has to change, Tomas. I think, you know, I think Croke Park and the GA generally pay great lip service to us being a grassroots organisation, but that's not evident in their actions. I mean, by and large, and you can understand how this has evolved. If you look back over the years, by the way, Tomas, I mean, if you look back over the years, players were always considered club players, and there's been a massive paradigm shift over the last 40 years in terms of how we perceive players. I mean, players now, county players, you hear of county players being released to their clubs, but if you go back, you know, back in the 80s, 90s, it was more about, you know, clubs releasing players to the county, if you like, right? You can understand how that would be evolved, because the money is in the county game, and obviously then Croke Park, you know, have to foster that inter-county game where the money is. I can understand that, but they pay a huge amount of lip service to it being a grassroots organisation, you know, where 99% plus of the playing population are in clubs. But that's not evident in their actions then when they structure the championships. And this notion of playing 2 games in April, for me, doesn't work. It's huge. The championship loses its momentum. It's unfair on club players really getting started in January to play 2 games, which in many cases are insignificant, and they're on, you know, on standby for nearly another couple of months, then not knowing exactly when they're going to play. And I think there just needs to be, in my view, a change of structure completely. And the first half of the year is for inter-county championships, and the second half of the year is for club championships.
Yeah, like we were even talking about this going back 18 months ago, Fergal, when you were preparing for the All-Ireland Club semi-final against Ballyhale Shamrocks. You called for a split season then, a time for inter-county and a time for club. We're moving that month of April, starting the club season in July when inter-county is finished, and you clearly still hold that belief.
Absolutely, and I believe the All-Ireland final should be played another 6 weeks earlier. And I know they have moved, and it was a difficult decision to move from the Sunday in September and to bring it forward. But now that decision has been made and the sky hasn't fallen in, I think they can move it again and just restructure the league and the championship. And I'm not saying I have the solution to that for sure, but it can be done, and restructure your league and restructure your championship, and then allow a little bit of a gap between what will be the All-Ireland final and the start of the club championships. And absolutely, for sure, clubs or counties rather, who are knocked out earlier in the championship can start their club season earlier. But at least there's some structure around it, and everyone knows your club championship is going to start at the latest by whatever the date, like for example July. And for sure it can happen. I just think for the vast majority of the playing population, they're idle and in standby mode, and I know from experience it's so hard to keep yourself motivated when you don't know when your next game is going to be. And we're a bit of an exception in that regard in terms of other sports. I mean, other sports have their calendar, they know when they're going to play, and we're a bit of an exception in that regard, and it's fixable. I'm not sure is there will to fix it, but it is fixable.
Yeah, how hopeful would you be that change will occur? I know the CPA have been banging this drum for the last couple of years in terms of fixing the fixtures. How confident would you be, Fergal, that club players will get that certainty in terms of the calendar that they have to work with? Well,
the awareness of it as a problem, I think, at Croke Park level, because they did made an attempt to try and fix it and put that window that would be ring fence for club activity, but I mean, it didn't fix the problem. But I think there's an awareness of the problem, and I think it really, I would see the CPA as being a very worthwhile organisation. I think it's doing great work, and I think it needs to continue doing its work. And it's not going to happen next year for sure. Although, as you say, maybe the changes from this year might prompt a thought process in Croke Park where they might feel that maybe now is the time for a change. But I'm not confident. No, I'm not confident. I think it will happen eventually. It might not happen in the way I suggested, but I think more change will happen eventually. And if it doesn't, I think Gaelic games will suffer. I mean, I think the inter-county scene probably won't suffer too much, but Gaelic games will suffer in terms of participation rates. And you see guys all the time now, Tomas, finishing up their first 2 games, doing their exams, and then heading off to America for the summer on the basis that they won't miss a game, and that's killing clubs, and it's killing the vibrancy of clubs. And it's not just about playing games, it's about the vibrancy of our clubs, not just in Waterford, but right throughout the country. And creating energy in our clubs, and that's certainly lacking during the summer months at a time when you want to be playing hurling. I mean, obviously you have your underage, but in terms of, I suppose, our shop window, which is our senior club championships, there's no vibrancy, there's no energy during the summer months when you feel it is the time that you should be playing the games.
Well, Fergal, thanks a million for taking our call this evening, and we'll catch up to you again very soon.
Okay, thanks, Tomas.
Now you're hurling. Lorna Porca with Tomas McCarthy on WLR.